Okay, I was gone for a minute, but I'm back now. Sit the puck back down. Seems like everybody nowadays Hollywood. Wait, no, we're not talking about the Kings. We're talking about the Winnipeg Jets and the Vancouver Canucks here. Because this is something that I actually didn't talk about, I don't think, in my cursed video from a few days ago when the Canucks did indeed play the Jets at MTS Place. This is something that has kind of boiled up, because this right here, it's a huge can of worms. This has a ton of potential to piss a whole bunch of people off if I say the wrong words or if I pull the wrong strings. So I'm going to tiptoe my way around this topic and try to give my opinion and insight without going too far into one direction. What makes you beautiful? Okay, let's talk about what exactly we're talking about here. We're talking about what Mathieu Perreault said about the Department of Player Safety, because he called out the DoPS after Vancouver Canuck Jake Virtanen had no action taken against him that the NHL would provide. Now, why exactly does Mathieu Perreault want action from the league against Jake Virtanen? Well, it's because back in the game against the Jets, Vancouver Canuck Jake Virtanen kinda elbowed Perreault to the head. And upon watching that elbow, I'll leave a link to a tweet that has a gif of that elbow. My initial reaction upon seeing that elbow was, that kinda should have been a penalty, eh? We got away with one there because there was no call. Mathieu Perreault, on the other hand, was absolutely furious, and he was yelling at the referees after, and there wasn't a penalty called on the play, which, understandably so, kinda does give him the right to be mad, especially for a guy who is a little bit small and who has had a history of concussions. It's definitely not the best situation for a guy who's been put in that spot. I can totally understand why he would be very frustrated with that situation. But it's later revealed that the NHL and the Department of Player Safety will issue no actual discipline or action towards Jake Virtanen. Afterwards, Perreault is interviewed about it, and it seems like his anger has not subsided in the slightest. Let's read some of these comments that he said over here. "I'm not surprised, to be honest. Player safety my A," he told reporters. "This is literally an elbow to the face to a guy that didn't have the puck. I see him coming. I braced for a hit. It was a late hit. I never had the puck, and he puts an elbow to my face, and they're not going to do anything about it. Now, and this is where things get really, really different, I've got to take matters into my own hands. Next time this happens, and I get to swing my stick across his forehead, and I shouldn't get suspended then." That's a feisty comment right there. Let's go over to his next set of comments over here. "I don't really know what to say. I can't really protect myself, and if the league's not going to protect me, I'm the smallest guy on the ice, and if I can't really fight anybody, then the only thing I can do to defend myself is use my stick. So the next guy that does that to me, he's going to get my blank stick, and I better not get suspended for it." Now, I will say that if you're one who wants to go back to the olden days of rough, tough, really, really physical hockey, then comments like these are pretty nice to hear. But as a Canucks fan who is trying to be very neutral in this situation, there are a few things that we can actually establish first and foremost. First off, yes, the guy has the right to be upset. He has the right to say whatever he wants, and he has the absolute right to be pissed off because of this, especially due to his history of injuries in the past. Now, do I think Virtanen should have gotten a suspension or a huge fine? Maybe a fine. I'm not sure if Virtanen's hit was worthy of a suspension. Again, my initial reaction to the hit was, that kind of should have been a penalty. We got away with one there. Perreault was right. He was not in possession of the puck. He was actually trying to swat at the puck. Then he turns around and Virtanen's elbow is right there in his face. So it makes perfect sense as to why he would be upset. Virtanen, on the other hand, I kind of do have a little bit of a problem with how he handled it afterwards. Now, not because, he didn't get suspended, I have a problem with... That's not what I'm saying. Jake Virtanen was offered to fight afterwards by Blake Wheeler and somebody else too. And Virtanen backed out from both of those fights. And I think I really don't want to support that. The philosophy goes, the rat's gotta answer the bell. And I'm not talking about Brad Marchand. I'm talking about the player out there who dishes out the hits and who does the giving out there on the ice. When you do the giving, you have to be able to receive the taking as well. Which is why, to me, Jake Virtanen was in a position where the guy's gotta answer the bell, man. Blake Wheeler is offering to fight you. That's a trade that the Vancouver Canucks probably would want to take. Hey, 5 minutes of no Virtanen on the ice for 5 minutes of no Wheeler on the ice. That sounds pretty good. So it kind of paints an even worse picture to me, in my eyes at least, when I take a look at Jake Virtanen declining the fight. First off, he's not answering the bell. Second off, he's not giving his chance to take away Blake Wheeler out of the game for 5 minutes. That's a pretty significant thing for a hockey team, and honestly, that takes a backseat to the whole not answering the bell thing. I think Virtanen probably should have gotten at least a few punches in there, just because the hit was indeed an elbow, and it was probably a penalty. But the Department of Player Safety not stepping in and not doing anything about it is something that I honestly am not surprised about either. Mathieu Perreault's not surprised. He said that in the comments. I'm not surprised either, because when I'm taking a look at this with my Canucks goggles on, I take a look at things like, oh, Sven Berchi. Take a look at things like, oh, Daniel Sedin. I take a look at all these things that we've had in the past, Josh Levo included. That's a very recent one. And I see all these hits to the head, and I see all these things that have gone on with our players, and I say, yeah, well, if none of our players are going to get any discipline from their hitters, I don't see Virtanen getting any discipline. So I, for one, am not surprised. In fact, I kind of was open to the idea of Jake Virtanen not getting any discipline. As I said, I thought that was just a penalty. I didn't think that was a suspension-worthy hit, especially consider all the things that Canucks fans have had to see get deflected onto the heads of our players in the past not be worthy of suspensions either. Perreault, on the other hand, was very, very aggravated, and honestly, I think his comments will probably get him a fine, which I don't think is warranted, because, if anything, if it were up to me, if that Jake Virtanen head hit is suspendable, then that means that all the other Vancouver Canucks head hits that were inflicted upon the Canucks in the past are suspendable too. You know the ones that I'm talking about. I already mentioned some of them. Daniel Sedin, Levo, etc. Those need to be suspendable. But the fact that they weren't, and the fact that this Jake Virtanen hit wasn't, kind of does paint a picture of a problem. So, for Perreault, I am very, very willing to accept the fact that he did call out the Department of Player Safety, because there has been a problem with the DoPS in the past and the inconsistencies with their calls. I'm just saying that the Virtanen hit, in my eyes, wasn't a suspension, because that's what I'm used to out of this Department of Player Safety. In a perfect world, every head hit, period, is suspendable. But that's not the world we live in. That's not the world we live in, where the guys who can check Pettersson and Daniel Sedin and Bo Horvat and Stetcher and Levo all to the head get suspended. However, I will say that after those hits, you didn't see Daniel Sedin or Bo or Troy Stetcher or Levo or any of those Vancouver Canucks call out people and threaten to hack and slash them with their sticks. That part, yeah, I said it, they're fighting words, but I don't really want to give the go-ahead and say, yeah, that was an amazing comment. Sure, it provides for some juicy conversation like we're having now, but, hack and slash with the stick on the forehead, and he better not get suspended for that. Yeah, that hasn't worked out well for some other players. If I can recall correctly, Duncan Keith would do that a lot, and that was a very, very, very vicious-looking thing. But the bottom line here in this Virtanen thing is, in a perfect world, that suspension happens. But that's not the world we live in. I, for one, taking a look at this hit under the guise of our normal NHL Department of Player Safety that we have today, I looked at that and I was like, yeah, that's probably not a suspension, that's probably just a penalty. Perreault's had a history of concussions, so it makes sense why he would be frustrated, But at the same time, threatening a whole bunch of other people with your stick, I don't know if that's the smartest move out there, but hey, doesn't mean he's gonna do it, just comments to the media, right? Comment down what you think in the comments below. I'm interested in hearing what you have to say. We have a few hours to go before this Vancouver Canucks game. I'm not actually going to watch that. There's a Sockeyes game that I have to attend. So, yeah, I'll be doing my Junior B fair share tonight, and we'll be missing out on Canucks hockey, but you can all talk about that in the comments, I guess, once that's over. I hope you enjoyed this video. Social Life Trust 99, and bye.